crystal image. And I find, just to say, that the work that you do is a crystal image of curatorial work. So it is an amazing project. It is the ability to produce change in a systematic system of fixed properties. And so it is a great pleasure to have you here again. And you have to come next time as well. Okay. Thank you for coming. And thank you, Lily, for
I think we're going to do it at voucher.
Voucher is good.
So, Yasmil Raymond and I know each other for several years, and I think it's my really greatest pleasure that she's coming here. I have to tell you that when I posted the lecture on Facebook, so all the ex-students that were here in the workshop last year, they all envy you, and they said that it was the best workshop they have ever had in their lives. So I guess this is enough an introduction. And but I will just give a brief bio, not the whole bio, but just to tell that Yasmil started her career at the Walker Art Center. And she was there for 5 years as an assistant curator, right? And then she moved to be, we actually met when she was the curator of the DRR Foundation, and which is something really extraordinary. And now she's an associate curator at the MoMA at the Department of Painting and Sculpture. So we are very pleased and very, very happy that you came and that you are sharing your secret thoughts about the curatorial work. So I will take off the lights and give you a moment to tell me. You want to start like that? Yeah?
Maybe, yeah. Why not? Let's start.
Yeah.
I mean, thank you all for coming, and thank you, Lee, thank you, Liat, thank you, Bezalel. I have to thank the imaginary institution because all, except for the first time I came to Israel, what was, I don't remember.
I don't remember either.
When you were at Jerusalem.
Yeah, JCVA was the first time.
Yeah, that was my first visit. Then I keep coming now 4 times. Yes, the 4th time. And those last 3 visits were because Bezalel brought me. So I've seen 3 heads of the department in the visual arts.
Of the MFA.
The MFA. Now, Rafael and Nicola. So I sort of feel like I'm an honorary member of the art department, at least.
You must be very old.
And you've probably seen the 4th one.
Yes, she is familiar with the 4th.
Yes, I will be soon. But maybe this is also a way of saying, well, why? You know, one could ask why. I come from a small island in the Caribbean. It's a territory of the United States called Puerto Rico. And I left there when I was 18. And I went to the United States to study visual arts, to study painting at the Art Institute of Chicago. And then by my 3rd year there, I had an opportunity to work in a museum as an intern. I went on an internship to Venice, to the Peggy Guggenheim. And that kind of changed my attitude about becoming a painter. I had been painting since I was, a young person and teenager and so on. And then it was at the Peggy Guggenheim I had a strong realization that I really enjoyed what museums are and what can happen in the context of a collection. So it was really about, I was 20 years old and I sort of had like an epiphany that there were these people who dedicate a lot of attention to take care of a collection. And also I think for me it was also about character. I feel like I'm very interested in people from all walks of life, from different classes and different backgrounds, different cultures. Art has that ability to make things a level field so that everybody can access culture from their urgencies. And so there's an element of utopia in a museum, right? So there's that aspect of museums that they're small microcosmos, and if they have the right chemistry of people, if they have the right energy from the top to the bottom, from the bottom to the top, then you can make a good thing. There's potential in museums. I'm not saying all museums have these, but if you work enough, you will start learning that there's a lot of things happening. And particularly what excited me right away when I was very young was that the staff of a museum excited me a lot, more than actually the visitors of the museum. So this was, I was looking for a community since I was an immigrant. I'm an immigrant in the United States. So museums have given me that community. And first was in Chicago, where I went to school and worked at the MCA in education, and then I went to study graduate studies like you in curatorial studies at Bar College. And then I went to Minneapolis, to the Walker Art Center. That was another community, very different than Chicago, very different than New York. And then I returned back to New York to work at DIA, very different community of people, also a staff of maybe 50 people, very small compared to the Walker 175. And now I work in an institution that has 800 people, which means that is almost like a city in Puerto Rico. So, I mean, the population of the island of Puerto Rico is 3 million. So you get a sense of why I work at MoMA now. So I thought today, when I was talking to Edith about coming to talk to you, we brainstormed on Skype possibilities. And like what I thought, I mean, I can talk about many things, boring things, interesting things. Okay. But we decided that what we wanted to give you maybe is to share a very personal perspective as a new person in this community called MoMA. What I see, you know, many people thought on a technical level, I went, in a way, I regress in the sense of I was curator at DIA, the leading curator at DIA, and I made a decision to take a position inside a group again, where I was not the boss, where I was one member in a staff of a collective. In the painting and sculpture department, there are 6 departments on MoMA. Official department, sometimes I count education as another department, but that's another story. And so yeah, I was taking a pay cut, I was taking a title cut. So in terms of ambition, curatorial profession, this was not recommended. However, you have to keep these things very clear in your head. I hope one day when you are in this situation, is that there are moments in your life that you're going to choose a career path, and then you're going to ask yourself, why go to a place like a massive bureaucracy? And my decision was I wanted a mentor. I'm turning 40, and I needed a mentor again. And there are moments in your life you don't want to have a mentor. You want to be free and do whatever you want. But there are other moments that you're going to need to ask, maybe, hopefully, ask yourself that question. So go for the best mentor you can get. And I had the opportunity to get a good mentor, Anta Kim, she's curator of Museum of Modern Art. So she's curator of painting and sculpture. So making the band is about collaboration. And what does it mean to go from solo player, which I was, a solo trumpet player, type of thing, to now I'm in a jazz band. And everybody is doing their own thing. So when I arrived, the first thing I did, my first month, was I had lunch with 25 curators. There are 44 curators at MoMA, official curators, and then there's like dozens of curatorial assistants, depending on the department, but there are 44 official curators. And I needed to know many of them, so I just had lunch every day with one of them, 25, and I went on a rampage, like massive speed dating. And I didn't know, I only had lunch with people I didn't know. Like Judy Hackman was working on this Edgar Degas exhibition of monoprints. Completely different animal than me. She's a modernist who focuses on French, primarily European modern art, and put together this beautiful, really beautiful show of Degas monoprints. Christophe Chéric, the chief curator of drawings and prints, was working on a Marcel Brothers, the Belgian artist, a retrospective that now is traveling, I think it's somewhere in the world right now, in Spain, I think, or somewhere in Switzerland. He was working on that, very different. My colleague Anne Umland, in painting and sculpture, was working on Francis Picabia. This is just from lunch, okay? I'm learning this. These people are preparing these things. Rossana Marcosci, this exhibition is on view right now, is Louis Loller, you know, the great American photographer living, turned 70 years old right now, this year. So she's having her first retrospective, so if you come to New York by any chance, this is on view and it's quite wonderful. Sarah Meister and Star Figura were working on the post-war show of the collection. And my colleague Leah Dickerman was working on a Rauschenberg retrospective that is on view right now. So what was the diagnosis of those launches was that there's no lack of ambition at this place. There's not people who are bored. They are really, everybody's a lot of creativity and really aiming really high. So what does that lead to? It leads to criticism. The picture is not always that pretty. I just wanted to read to you. So this is a comment, anonymous comment from the New York Times, our primary paper in New York. That says, unfortunately, the museum hardly ever offers any shows of interest or challenge those whose interest and knowledge of art is real. The Museum of Modern Art's main interest and look is that of a corporate entity, attendance-driven profit margins, not art. Now, this is a very common criticism because MoMA looks like this. I don't want to lie to you. It doesn't look like those pictures that I just showed you, where the galleries are empty. Those are taken on the first day the show is finished, installation. But then this is how it looks on a daily basis. We get 7,000 visitors a day. And 60% of those visitors are tourists, non-Americans. So that's a big thing, non-New Yorkers. So 60% is non-New Yorkers. So we're not a local museum. And to see Starry Night, Vincent van Gogh's famous painting, which cannot never be on view. You know, it's like the reason we exist. Apart from Picasso's Mademoiselle Agnew. It looks like this, so you cannot really look at it. So I put this cartoon to illustrate the sensation that lots of people have at MoMA, which is, you can see it on reproduction. So for a better look at the painting, go to our website, says the guard. Okay, now it gets a bit more serious, is that then there are our colleagues, you know, people in the field of art that you're navigating. So this is a quote from the important former director of the Museum Ludwig in Cologne, Caspar Kunig, a very important German curator, who now, I think he's in his 70s.
Raymonds?
He's going to be doing the Münster, he always does the Münster sculpture exhibition every 5 years. And this is what he said in artforum.com. There was 2 years ago a symposium in anticipation of this year's Documenta. And he says, MoMA acts like the Vatican, that's already an insult, and the Kremlin all in one. Wow. The real problem is that the museum has gone corporate. what's going on in Greece and Germany is also a fucking corporate machine. It doesn't deal with emotions of real people, right? So they're trying to talk in preparation for Documenta, which is now in Athens and Castle, but they brought MoMA into this debate. And this was fascinating as I was joining. This is exactly when I was starting my job. I joined on July 3rd, and this is July 22nd. So, like, hello there, sorry. It's like, welcome to the party. Everybody hates the institution where you went to work. Okay, so Casper Kunin doesn't think highly of MoMA, and nor of other people. So there comes the defense, right? My boss says the geographic and topical breadth was much wider. So she's talking about Alfred Barr was the founder director of MoMA. So MoMA is nearly 90 years old. In 2 years, it will turn 90. It's the oldest exhibition space that I've ever worked. Like the Walker, I think, is 80 this year. So MoMA is a bit older. Museums in America are not that old, so 90 is pretty old for a museum. And Alfred Barr was known to collect everything from African masks to Haitian paintings to Matisse. So he had a very big idea of art as a universal concept. This Temkin is explaining the geographic and topical breadth was much wider than the cliché versions of our history now presents, right? So that focus was lost in the second half of the 20th century and from the collective memory too. So Barr's initial vision that the Museum of Modern Art, the modernity, was a big universal project that included all sorts of arts, naive art, Mexican Olmec sculptures, and also American figurative painting, and so on. It stopped the minute, if you're familiar with the moment where William Rubin joined MoMA as the chief curator of the painting and sculpture lab, and that ended. Those acquisitions were no longer pursued, and it became what we know as canonical presentations of the collection. So canon building was his big endeavor, and that was followed by other chief curators at MoMA that wanted to tell the story of modernity from a Eurocentric perspective, and that really did not include other people. So the accusations, one of being corporate, which means, in other words, bureaucratic, boring, not creative, right? That's what corporate sort of connotes. Formal, lacking on politics, right? A corporate institution is not involved in controversial, challenging positions. That those accusations are real, I'm not going to deny them. And also, the other side of the coin, the accusation that is Eurocentric and Western-guided collections, narrative of the collections, are also here. So you have like two enemies fighting with each other. Now the reality at MoMA today is a bit more complex. And I just did bad screen grabs because I'm not very high-tech, but just to show you. Just this is how it looks right now when you go to our website and you click on this year. If you say this year, what has been shown? You have someone like Sasha Browning from Canada, Clorindo Tesca, who's he died, Argentinian architect, was on view. Jaime Gajidovic, also Argentinian filmmaker, recently passed away, was on view. Japanese creator of emojis. We had Alexandra Pachesetsi, who is a choreographer, dancer, amazing performance artist. Jose Carlos Martinez from Peru. I'm just touching like key. Hans-Peter Feldman from Germany. Ana Teresa de Kosmetia from Belgium. So Czech Republic cinema, post-war. So it's really diverse in terms of its program. The problem is to summarize them, right? So you could be producing all of these things, but when Aubrey and Weser, the chief director of the Hauser Kunst in Munich, who's from Nigeria originally, makes an attack on MoMA publicly, he attacks on the grounds of Western canon building. Or when Kasper Kuning names us as corporate and heartless and not having been in touch with reality, right? He's not addressing these because this is very hard to analyze. And I think how I kind of deal with this on a daily basis is that we are creators, right? Curators are with artists creating things, creating exhibition, creating narratives. So we're in the process of creation constantly. Analyzing that creation is not part of our job description. And this is very important because that's how I reconcile it. If I'm going to be analytical while I'm creating, I'm not going to be able, the museum will not be able to put out all of that programming. Because you start second guessing. You start like, okay, no, wait, how many shows do we have with women? How many shows do we have with Japanese artists? So then you start like doing a quota programming. So John Cage, I mean, I did not invent this concept, I take it from John Cage, who said, creating and analyzing our two mental activities are different. So we have to allow time for creation and allow time for analysis. So it is really their job, the critic's job, to analyze this, you know, and to really take it in and make a statement of what is it that MoMA is doing programmatically. I personally am not in charge of that one. But I'm part of the committee that makes decisions. So I wanted just briefly to give you an overall view of the problem. There are many problems, but these are, seem to me, are the two most urgent problems. The popularity of the Museum of Modern Art, on one hand, brings great things. It's very popular. There's a lot of people coming to see Van Gogh and Matisse and Pablo Picasso. And then, at the same time, there is this problem, an intellectual problem, of what does Matisse, Pablo Picasso, and Van Gogh mean. Okay. So that's our reality. And then we have work. We have to fill the galleries with exhibitions. So 3 months after I arrived, we were announced the news that the Museum of Modern Art was going to dismantle their exhibition galleries by department. So, how many have been to MoMA before? Okay, great. So maybe you remember that you arrive to the 5th floor and it's like the classics, the greatest hits, beautiful things. And then you go, 4th floor was painting and sculpture. 3rd floor was architecture and photography. 2nd floor was prints and drawing. So everybody was in a little ghetto, yeah? And everything was fine and happy. But it was decided that in order to get us back to the 21st century, to arrive to the 21st century, we had to become interdisciplinary. Right? That's how it is, that we didn't get the memo at this museum. So it was wonderful. I was very excited. I thought this is a good thing. Finally, someone delivered the commandments. We are artists work in different mediums. There should not be these categories. This is going to be a wonderful opportunity. So we started with 1 floor. The problem that they didn't tell us was that it was going to be 15 curators. Because in order to guarantee that no one was going to take advantage of photography, the smaller departments, photography, media and performance, drawings and prints, you have to have representatives of those countries in this free installation. Because painting and sculpture, my department, is the colonizer. You know, it's like, we have everything, and we are powerful, and so they sent an army of people to monitor that the few curators from painting and sculpture follow the rules. So this is like world geography 101. Martino Pistierli is the head of the architecture and design department. And next to him is my boss, I'm Tempe. And then all of the 15 people, we were divided in 9 galleries. Our meetings look like these. So at least one decision was made right away, that we were only going to consider works of art made in the 1960s. That meant like 13,000 objects. And so we went through a lot of we got divided. That was also the good news. I got 1968 with another one curator from drawings and prints, so that was easy. One person, one battle. And we got our space determined, so everybody went and worked, but we had these big collective meetings that you only see here, 5 curators, but there were 15 in the room. What was good for me was it was a way of immersing in the collection and learning. So if you ever get a job in a collecting institution, this is like the rule of thumb, is to try to learn as fast as possible your collection so that you know what you have to play with. It's really hard. I mean, even though there's databases now, you don't know it until you see it. So for example, these are Cartier-Bresson photographs from 1968 that were in MoMA's study collection. Cartier-Bresson had sent them to MoMA as a gift, and they are all documenting the revolution, the May Revolution in Paris, but they were not photographs. Somehow the chief of the Department of Photography didn't consider them good enough, right? So me, who I'm coming from a different department, I got permission to see the study collection of photography, and they were not opposed. They were like, okay, if you like them, you can borrow them. You know, within the museum, I can borrow from other departments. So those were first work we put in 1968. That's me determining if the legs of the pedestal should be white or black. As simple as that. This is Mies van der Rohe, also Mies van der Rohe's National Gallery in Berlin, the model. When Mies made the Berlin Gallery was in 1968, and he died that year. It got unfolded, got opened, and he sent the model to MoMA. But he also went to the study collection. So I basically was going through the flea market material, what nobody wanted. But in part, it was not like I have a fetish for study collections. It's just that they were really interesting things. This model had never been exhibited. Those Cartier-Bresson photographs had never been exhibited. So also the idea that you're pulling out, by coincidence of a year, 1968, that you're pulling out something that nobody else has seen. So that was exciting. The big challenge we had as curator, David Platzker was my colleague on this, and myself, David was coming from prints and drawings, is that we had never worked with design. And so we didn't know how difficult it would be to put an object that was designed next to an artwork. And you know, we didn't have a problem, the curators coming from the painting and sculpture department, drawings and print, but the design curators were really touchy about this. So that big vitrine, because I was new, I didn't know that they were these sensibilities. This is also the good thing about being new. I designed this whole vitrine full of things from everybody. A Wunderkammer type of situation, and the design curators were furious. Obviously, because they didn't know me, they were not courageous enough to tell me how much they hated me, but I'll give you some close-ups in a minute. So how it started is like 1961, you walked in and you saw a Rolls Royce with Lee Montague, with Richard Hamilton, with a Warhol. Next room you had 62, this is not historically correct, okay? Any art historian would walk in and cry. I mean, so random, the whole idea of Louis Kahn with Klaus Oldenburg and a lovely Alex Katz, different things, different ideas, nothing to do with each other other than the year of production. And so this is like the first no-no of art history class. You don't do this. You don't do this kind of arbitrary pairings. There was also no aesthetic relationship. There was not really anything to do with one another, to be very, very blunt and honest. But what started happening, this is the wonderful Rosenquist, F111, he just passed away last year. This is 66. Total craziness in there. There's Falstrom, Agnes Martin, Jose Soto, Jesus Soto. Okay, so now 68, my problem. So 68, the whole 60s installation included 300 artists, and in 68 we had 40. So you can do the math. We really wanted to do it all. We had no exclusion. As you can see from the names, there were famous people like Andre, Joseph Beuys, Risto, you can recognize them, but there were also a bunch of other people that you may not recognize, which I didn't know anything about.
Really famous designers.
Yeah, famous designers. So this is the first gallery you saw. Very minimal, because the gallery was not so big. And also because these objects are quite big. This is John Baldassari, the Mies van der Rohe, that's how it ended being, with the white, and that flavor. It became selfie central with the flavor. This is something I cannot control. Visitors, at least at the beginning, there were about 5 damages where they will step on the flavor. So me coming from DIA, everybody who has been to DIA knows, I had a heart attack almost every day that I would get the incident report, because how could it be that people would break a damn flavor? To me it seems outrageous, but this I learned right away that this is MoMA and this is what happens. So a very interesting phenomena about proximity, about the 60% that I was speaking about is not a sophisticated 60%. We're talking about people who are going to Times Square after their trip to MoMA, and who are not really interested in having what Flavin thought was the experience of art. Contemplation, thinking, feeling with the body, with the mind, with the eyes. That's not the idea. The idea is let's take a picture, send it to grandma, of the kids. So, yeah. The good news was that we covered the retreat with glass, so now it was safe. But this is how it looks. And I really want to show you this because these are some of the preoccupations that I have, right? Dealing with what I thought was a great idea to include the Italian design, the Sacco chair, which were designed in '68. And I thought how wonderful, we'll be the only gallery where people can sit. But they sit to read their phones, not to look at the beautiful Yvonne Rainer film where she's dancing naked with Steve Paxton, which I thought was so amazing. Or they lay on the floor like these. So it's not like we don't have guards. We have guards in every gallery. It's just that visitorship has really changed. So learning lessons from this experience were many. This shows how naive I was at the beginning, like thinking, oh, this is wonderful. People will be really happy. And maybe they were happy, but they did not satisfy what I thought should be happening, which is observing Valley export. This is a fantastic video. We were also the first gallery where video appeared. You know, it was very important for me. 1968, the cameras were being given to artists to test them. I had Bruce Nauman on the other monitor. Right, this is like a breakthrough. No longer 16 millimeter, you can use video. Yeah, so that doesn't read that well. So maybe one of the thoughts I had, it was our curatorial fault, that we didn't put a lot of emphasis on history. So when you went through those galleries, you were not reading about the year 1968. You were not, you didn't have vitrines with magazines or newspapers or books or a video from a television clip that contextualized what was going on in 68. 68 being a big year all over the world. So the missing timelines, the missing archival material, for me, these are signaling maybe the space was too narrow. Maybe 1968 could have been the whole floor, you know? It's a lot to ask from the visitors. So if you're, as a curator, not inserting some sort of mechanism to make people stop, maybe it was a mistake to have 40 artists in these two little spaces. Less could have been more. As we use less artists and then more historical context that makes people calm down and understand that Vietnam was happening, that all these assassinations in the United States have happened, Martin Luther King had happened, John F. Kennedy, Bobby Kennedy, you know, like bring home this message that this was a very agitated moment historically. So, okay, that was not a success, but it was not a total failure. It was just something to chew on. I can tell you that we are going to continue on the mixing the departments when we reinstall again. But one thing we learned, the design department doesn't want to be part of this party. So they claim back their territory. So they were once considering union, and now they're not united. They want to keep their galleries on the third floor, and the adventures department, photography, prints and drawings, and media and performance are going to join the market. We will see how that moves on. I'll keep you posted. The second case study I wanted to share is Jerome Bell, because right after that madness, we got an email. All the staff at MoMA, yeah. We got an email that said, I'm Jerome Bell, and I'm looking for people who like to dance. If you like to dance, send a clip of you for 2-minute dance.
To the music that you like.
To the music that you like, and with the clothes that you like. Okay, so I did one of those. Because I thought, why not? Jerome Bell seems like a nice person. These are my colleagues. And we were coming from all the departments. We were 30. All the departments, visitors, guards, curating departments. And Jerome Bell, the first night that he met with us, he said, okay, so I want these 10 people, he had a name, he had seen our videos. And he said the names, I want these 10 people to come front and dance in front of you, their piece. And he explained the concept. So the concept is one person was going to do a solo. So she got selected to do a solo alone. Right? And then, you would do it? Oh, you're the best. And then the others will follow. The next one. So we were in the atriums on MoMA, and people just, came in as they wanted, twice a day for 5 days. Can you?
Yeah, you went out there. This is challenging.
No, that's okay. Don't worry. I can explain it. It's okay. Don't worry, maybe.
So let's have fun. That's the key. Welcome to the huddle. This is your first huddle. Good. But no,
maybe I can explain a little bit what this is about. So we learned after the first, maybe we can stop it. We learned after the first performance. Okay, Jerome did not do many rehearsals with us. We did 2 rehearsals, and then he's like, okay, show up on Monday, and then we start dancing. After the first performance, we were destroyed. I mean, I thought I would not make it home. Because what happens is that if you're not a trained dancer, like none of us was a trained dancer, performing for 30 minutes twice a day in the atrium of MoMA, it's really hard for you. So we had to follow the leading person. So there were 10 people who were the leaders. And everybody was dancing what they know how to dance. So for example, this friend of mine, Chadi, he is from Congo. So he is a real dancer in the sense that he knows how to dance a warrior movement, a celebration, ceremonial warrior dance. So when he came in, he killed us, you know? Thank God we had someone from Japan who had something more mellow, then we both going down to the floor, and then you recuperated. And then I came in with a Brazilian samba, which everybody calmed down. But then Chad will come and do this hip-hop dance that will destroy us again. And then a ballet dancer will come, which we didn't know is an IT director. The director of IT is a professional ballet dancer. And then, you know, something fun with the Depeche Mode. And then we ended with New York, New York by Frank Sinatra. What happened on the first day was that as we were aching and not knowing how we were going to do the second performance, Chad thought, okay, we need to have like words of encouragement. We need to come in a circle and hold hands and tell each other that we're doing okay. So totally like the military, like total brainwashing, calm down. The second day, the dancer, the ballet dancer, Diana, said, I'll do a warm-up. She sent an email early in the morning and say, if you're feeling a lot of pain, come early in the morning and we will do stretching together and get ready. And the guy from Congo, who's a security guard, brought in these ointments to put on your body that smelled terrible, but it was great for us to like the muscles to release the stress. So immediately what we learned in less than 24 hours was that we needed to organize because Jerome Bell was not going to take care of us and that we were only ourselves, right, to deal with this. We also learned that we could not go back to work. You know, we were supposed to be working and get permission to dance 30 minutes twice a day. But by the second day, we knew we could not go back to our desk and be like in a meeting, also because we were wearing ridiculous outfits, but in part because we were so worked up about dancing. So a new perspective on dancers immediately emerged, which was you have to reserve your energy. You have to conserve energy to be able to perform, to be able to give in, to give it to the audience. So that was incredible. For many of us who had worked with dancers. I had worked at the Walker with Tino Segal. At DIA, I worked with Yvonne Rainer and Steve Paxton. I thought, oh, I know a lot about dance, but I didn't. Even though I worked with these serious people who are real dancers. I didn't understand until I was in a situation where I was involved. So a completely new perspective on dance and on what it means to work as a dance group. And then something beautiful happened too, which was coming out. You know, by this is like my first year had passed, and I thought I knew a lot of people. Already I told you I had those lunches, and I've been in lots of different committees and meetings, but it was in this performance that I got to meet everybody really at MoMA, because the staff would come to watch us, or they would watch from the balconies, and then when you were in the elevator by yourself, they would say, wow, I didn't know you could dance like that. Or there would be like a solidarity bump, and And then the most fabulous thing for me was that sometimes I'm in these crazy meetings where I don't know people. You know, it could be like in an education meeting. They call me to be part of it, and I show up, and I'm like, I'm the only one from painting and sculpture. But now, there's always someone who has been in the dance company with me. So it's like, oh, now we have an internal gang thing going on because we were dancers together. So that also has changed some of the dynamics. In regular meetings about like difficult things, now we sort of have our own code system of solidarity. Okay, then the third study, and that's my last example of what's going on over there at the temple, is that, so again, my boss comes with the news of you being selected, which is always bad news. I'm like, no, why me? So being selected again to be part of a curatorial collaboration. And this time, we were 6 curators. And I said, all right, but the gallery is so small. Why do we need 6 people? Well, you know, the whole thing about the quota, representing all the departments. Okay, so we started Unfinished Conversation, contemporary works from the collection, to show that it's on view now on the 6th floor. And this one maybe feels more practical to share with you because it's what I do. This is really what I'm not really an art historian, as I told you before. I work with contemporary artists. That's really what I know how to do. I've done historical exhibitions like Carl Andre, but he's alive, so he qualifies as a contemporary artist. So when she said, you'll be working with a contemporary collection, that was good news. You'll be working with 6 curators, 5 curators, that was like, oh, okay, let's try it again. The good part was that in any group dynamic, what I think I like to encourage, and this was the message today that I wanted to bring, is that MoMA can be translated, this idea of MoMA can be translated to anywhere. And what I want to say is that collaborations have become now very important to me. At the beginning I was super skeptical about the productivity of collaborations and the efficiency of collaboration. I thought, oh, if I could only do it by myself, I'll get this done in 2 minutes. But what I'm learning is that the 2 minutes is not so interesting. Yes, of course, you can do anything by yourself. The part that is important about the collaboration is that it opens into many directions. And people are different. We are all very different. I can go back to the slide and tell you, Klaus Wissenbach, you know how he looks like. He's German, was trained as a doctor, nothing to do with me in terms of culture and so on. Elizabeth Henderson is from Minnesota, also trained as an art historian. Christian Rattermeyer, German, born in Kassel, saw every documentary in his life. Lucy Galloon, New Zealand, born in New Zealand. Thomas Lax, New York Jew. African-American New York Jew. Okay, there you go. And then me. So very different people with very different perspectives. So one thing we did have in common was that we all wanted to see this film. This film was bought 3 years ago and hadn't been shown. It's a film installation by Jonah Compra, a filmmaker from London. And why we wanted to see this installation is that it's a portrait of Stuart Hall, the Jamaican theorist who invented the whole department of cultural studies back when he was in Birmingham in England. And he's the founder, one of the founders of the New Left Review. You know that leftist magazine that still exists. He was one of the founding members. Stuart Hall was also black. And he based a lot of his theory and Marxist analysis on race relationships. So we we all wanted, for some crazy reason, Carl Bisbach, Lucy, Thomas, Christian, and me wanted to see this film. So that was good that we had one desire in common, because there was a lot to pick from. Again, the museum buys a lot of art that you never get to see, and so this was a good beginning. And we decided also right away that we liked the title. The title of this installation is The Unfinished Conversation. So we were kind of immediately attracted to it and said, why don't we call it Unfinished Conversations? Make it plural. And then I went online and I said, well, the Canadians already did it. So there was an exhibition with the same title, but that's okay. Like no place like home at the museum here in Jerusalem. The Israel Museum has a show right now that title was used at the Walker Art Center in 1998. So no problem borrowing the same title. The problem is if you are borrowing the title incorrectly. That would be the problem. So we were trying to be very loyal to John Akomfra. So what we did was a list of associations. So just to break it a little bit more, what things came up in this film? And now I don't know where I am on my notes, but it's somewhere like, I can probably remember. Belonging. He talks a lot about not belonging in Jamaica anymore and not belonging in England. He talked about passing. He was a light-skinned black man. So he could pass as Indian or some other race, right, in England. People would not know that he was Jamaican. He talks a lot about his mother, so the conflict with his mother. Okay, so we thought, okay, mother problems. We would write down politics of liberation, protests. There's a lot of footage that John Akomfra borrows from the BBC about the protests, racial riots in England at that time. There's also the Vietnam War footage. There's footage of invasions of former British colonies, so colonial problems. So we would write all these words in a big pad, and then we would go with those words, with those kind of search terms, to the database at MoMA to see what had been purchased in the last 10 years that could be associated. So we rapidly narrow it, because you would be so surprised, probably not, but I was surprised, about the amount of abstraction we buy. Nothing wrong with abstraction, but guys, let me tell you, it's incredible with the world that we live in today, that we could not find an abundance of art that had to do with gender problems or politics of liberation or equality. No. There was a lot of paintings with geometry, forms, and color. So we survived. There was a selection right away. And this is how we look at the beginning, looking with the 2D forms, and then we put together the show. So the show begins with Adrián Villarrojas from Argentina, a piece called Return the World. It had a big title, introduction, which I gave to the students of this class as a handout. You can read it. In front, the entrance, the photograph that welcomed you was Wolfgang Tillman, the end of broadcast, which he did in St. Petersburg during the Ukraine invasion. The Russians, when they invaded the Ukraine, he took a picture of a television. There is this note, the white noise. Lynette Yadom-Bokeh, on the far end, Wolfgang, and Anna Wunyan from Cairo. Lynette is from London, painter. I don't know if you're familiar with her work, but she makes a painting a day. So the painting is an oil, and the concept is that she makes a portrait of someone in her imagination. It's not a person who's sitting. So she's trying to reinvent portraiture from this idea that black people are depicted in a certain stereotypical way. So she's trying to redefine the stereotype of the black male, the black female. And the way that her restraint, or the way that she's controlling this, is by saying one painting, one day. And Anna, these are ugly, really ugly, but beautiful at the same time, drawings of the spring, the Arab Spring in Cairo, the events that happened 6 years ago. On this side, you can see in the far end a big collage of Eric van Lieshout from Rotterdam. That's Eric, Iman Issa, also from Cairo but based in Brooklyn, and Kara Walker on the far end. This is Minette, we can see a little bit more portraits. Jonathan de Andrade from Recife, Brazil, a video about a fake protest that he staged in his hometown. Again, Iman, and then on the far right end, Andrea Bowers. And you can only see Malcolm X, but this large black and white photograph of Malcolm X is their self-portrait of Samuel Fosso from Cameroon. He reenacts different political leaders. This is Cameron Rowland, an American artist based in New York now, but originally from Philadelphia. And this is how we looked, the group. This was the day. Okay, this is a good story. This was the press preview. No one came. Because there was a blizzard. That's why Klaus has no boots. There was the day of the opening of the show. No one came from the press. So this can also happen. And still today they haven't reviewed it. And I think that, you know, at the same time, I gave you, for the students in the class, I gave a review of the first show where Roberto Smith ripped a little bit of us apart. Yeah, this one I had nothing to give you other than what we said that the show is about. But this is how it is, right? Even at the Museum of Modern Art, there are shows that don't get any traction. Not that it's, I don't think it's a bad show. I think from the lessons learned here, there were a couple of things. One, the show opened the day before the Whitney Biennial, which is a very important event in New York at the Whitney Museum of American Art. They have this biennial. And that was very bad timing. Then God decided to send the snow. That was also bad timing. And I think also politics is not, right now there's this tension in the United States. As we know, we're in a nearly dictatorship. There's a very sensitive nerve right now to address all of these things. Every single piece in this show, that was the principle. We all had to agree as a group. We decided that if we're going to put the work in the show, we all had to agree. So that no one could, if there was a drama, if there was some scandal or anything, for whatever reason, you never know where people are going to feel hypersensitive, that we all would stick with our artists, would support them. And this was very important, and I guess this is the one thing I can share with you. When you do the collaboration, which I hope you do engage with, this doesn't make you not want to play in a band, you have to make one law with together as a group, right? So then the Three Musketeers had it, we should have it too, which is all for each other. So we were saying to ourselves, so Andrea Bowers, are people going to freak out? The image is a woman stepping on another woman. One woman carries the banner of patriotism, the other woman carries the banner of liberty. The one that's on the floor is the woman with liberty. So we were like, is everybody in agreement that if something happens here and the ultra-right comes and the neo-Nazis come and want to like take down this collage, that we are all going to stand by Andrea Bowers? Because that is the one thing I will not accept censorship. So, you know, we all had to kind of make this kind of argument, and then we went for it. This is very different than what happened, I mean, in the United States. If you're following the news of the art world, at the Whitney Biennial, there were protests in front of artworks, censoring that artwork of Dana Schutz. And at the Walker Art Center, they just took down, unfortunately, my alma mater, they bent down to this idea of removing a work by Saint Laurent and burning it. They're like preparing to burn it.
They don't know if they will burn it. They are discussing.
Yeah, that's the update.
Yes.
But they took it down.
From yesterday.
Yeah.
They are discussing whether to burn it or not.
Yeah, so these are very serious things in the United States at least.
Wow.
It makes us very nervous as curators because this is really ultimate territory that I hope you never have to be put in a situation like this. But I think if you feel confident about the art and you are willing to say we are all sticking for the artist, that's the most important. And hope that your director is also with you on this. Because oftentimes the curator loses ground when the director is not in agreement. So that will be, that's how I think I could wrap it up and you can go.
Wonderful, thank you. So now questions. I think you also wanted to mention about Jerome Bell. Every time I say now questions and then I say.
Yeah.
So about the Jerome Bell, also about the hierarchy, that, right?
Yeah, that was, thank you. He has the best brain in this room. So the other thing that happened with Jerome that was interesting was that because he's invited everybody in the museum to participate, there were chief curators who came, like the director of education was part of it, the chief curator of film was part of it. But to me, I was not the curator of that project. I left thinking that what I would have been very successful would have been if Jerome would have managed to convince the director to dance with us. That would have been really great. And so to this day, I think that all projects have one thing that you can push forward, And I think that would have been my desire to push forward. Why the director? I think, the kind of relationship I have now with the guards who were dancers, no one can take that away from me. There's a level of understanding because we suffered together. We suffered. We did. We had blisters, our knee hurt. So we suffered. And I think that museum's director need to suffer a little bit too. Not with the press, not with the ego only. But and also to get to know, another thing that happened too was with the person from education, there was a young woman, Leti Gutierrez, that I didn't know. She's from Mexico, and I didn't know, how could I know? And she didn't know I was from Puerto Rico, so in this dance we learned that we both spoke Spanish as a first language. And then she asked me for this exhibition to teach a class. They have adult education at night at MoMA. And so I taught a course on the language of truth. Many of the works have some level of truth-telling in this show. And it was because she felt really comfortable. They usually don't invite curators to teach because they don't like curators that much in education, So it's this dynamic of hierarchy and so on. But she was like, I can ask you, since you were a dancer. So that's also something I have to give credit to Jerome, because otherwise I would have not gotten that invitation. And I learned a lot from teaching that class the last 2 months. It's mostly people who are retired, who are like in their 60s, 70s. I had one student who's in her 80s. And you understand a lot about disconnect with contemporary art practice. For example, little people know about what an artist do to make a living. Unfortunately, popular culture in the United States has a very good handle on singers and actresses and so on, how their life looks like. But there's very little, apart from Jeff Koons, I don't know that they really have an understanding, the average citizen, of what it takes to make art and how difficult it is to have gallery representation. And even when you have gallery representation, it doesn't mean that you sell and so on and so forth, or you have gallery representation but you're not invited to biennials. So is that better or worse? I know many artists who, yeah, they sell, but they're so sad inside. They're not invited to Sao Paulo, or they're not invited to Venice, or they're not, you know, like the great exhibitions, international exhibitions, they don't get to participate. So what's the point of having a good check and not having any sense of international perspective? Yeah. So, yeah. Great. Go. No, go.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
I had a couple of questions, but one I was going to say that, like, talking about politics and the situation in the U.S., in February, I think you guys did this, like, as a protest. You rehung paintings by artists from the banned countries.
Yes.
The Trump's travel.
Yes, they still are.
Yeah, no, but, like, I work in a museum. And so it's always nice when you get to compare, like, the backstage to the front of the house, and like to do any sort of exhibit, it's not like, it's never just you decide to hang a painting. It's like, make sure the label is there and that the art handlers know and that the conservator does the condition report, like all these things. So when I saw it, like, I did, like, on one hand I was like, is this a delusion, or like, did you guys organize it in 3 days?
Yeah,
was it already in the works?
Real. No. So I can tell you, because I was involved. I was involved in it. It was Sunday, and when they announced, you know, nobody knew this crazy man was going to do this. He plays by surprise. His tactic. It's really, that's something the left has to figure out. I mean, I think in America they're so shocked about this political tactic of surprise. They just don't know, because they are a sophisticated political machine. They thought, but no, but this is quite interesting. So he surprised us on Sunday, and my boss, Anthony, called me at home, which is unusual. I thought someone died. You know, I always think when someone calls me on my cell phone on a weekend from work, it's like, someone died. And she said, would you mind, she's not able to access the database from her house, and she was not in the city, so she was like, there are two problems. I am not in the city, and I cannot go to the museum to access the database, but I need to know if we have. Okay, what we have. So there was the big question mark. What do we have? And I immediately said, oh no, we have a lot of Iranian art. That's for sure. I knew that already, even though I'm not even an expert on the museum's collection yet. But I knew that because there was, in the 60s, there was still a little bit of hope about globalism in MoMA. And there was a curator who brought in a great deal of Iranian paintings, which was so radical. Because, you know, Warhol had a relationship with Iran, so like, yeah, whatever. So I went to MoMA to look for this list, and it was really funny. We had a lot. We had at least 50 things that could be shown. So then on Monday, that list got narrowed down to 10. And that was Monday. Tuesday, we were writing the labels. Like, once we knew which ones were they, we were assigned. I wrote the one for Siar Majani. Siar Majani is a living Iranian artist who, it must be in his 80s now. He lives in Minneapolis, so he was my neighbor from the Walker Art Center. So I was like, I'm sure we have a Siar Majani something. And we did. We had this beautiful sculpture, and they had never been shown. So I'm going to tell you also the critique I have of our own reaction. But so that was Wednesday, and then Thursday at night, MoMA is a union. The staff, we're part of a union up to a certain level, and then after you're a full curator, you are not part of it. So the union had to approve that we were working overnight, and so people went overnight on Thursday, and the install. So there's a little bit of drama because the collection is housed in Queens, so they have to make shuttles to bring the work, so that's an expense. And then you have to dismantle things like Matisse and Pablo, not something that people are happy to dismantle. The conservators get very nervous with these movements, so that was a challenge. But then, once they went up, they all knew that they had to put a little bit more of patience. And then Friday, that was it. Two things, I could say. My boss asked us to review with her, me, and 2 other people, the label that was going to go below our label. You know, there's 2 labels. There's the label that I tell C.R. Majani, la la la, and then the label below, which says President Trump on this day decided to do this. And MoMA is based on art that is mainly by immigrants. This is the foundation of this institution 90 years ago. Most of the people were immigrants who are in the collection who came at that time, from Europe, from Latin America. And so, yeah, it goes against our values, so there had to be a statement about that. And so she was having a struggle of words. Some curators were pushing back of how much you tell, how much you take a position. Good news was that she read it by us, we were totally in solidarity, and it went up. Now, I can tell you that it was not well received by some people. There are people within the institution that didn't think it was our place. Obviously, our director stood by her, by Anne, and by Christophe Cherik, the chief of prints and drawings. The decision also was we were not going to tell a press release. We were not going to do a press release. That was also a very important decision because when Anne asked me what I thought about the press release thing, I said, don't do it. This is the perfect example of how things turn really quickly, really bad. Because what does the press do these days with museums is that they copy, cut and paste what you wrote. And then all of a sudden it's in massive media. At least let them type it instead. Commit to your own words of what this is about. Don't give that all in a baby food. So this was very important, that the decision of not giving them baby food, I think more and more I'm realizing is very important. It's unfortunately that that's how journalism has evolved, but especially our journalism. I don't know if the other journalists are like it. Maybe they are. But yeah, the third thing was, it is true that these works were not on view for many, many years, and that like the Iranian works were not on view since the 60s. And Ziar Majani was not on view, ever. So there is a hypocritical side, one could say. You know, we could say, wait, now you put them out when there is a reason, right, a political alarm. But I say, yes, this is the moment. If it's not now, when? And since nobody else wanted to put it out before, so now we have a precedent. Yeah? And so now I think we can do a lot. Now to go back to the old manners may seem wrong. So this is the good thing about these kinds of situations, is that, yeah, it may seem opportunistic, but then it generates, like you activate a muscle, and then you cannot not activate it again. Because the muscle will say, but, oh, hey, why don't we put out also those crazy, I have an obsession to put out a beautiful collection of Haitian paintings that came in the 40s. You know, these paintings have never been shown. Nobody knows what they are, so I'm doing the research now, even though I'm not a modernist. You know, and so trying to like read what Breton wrote about Haitian painting, and then other people, and try to make an argument that this should be in the surrealist galleries. Right? But now I have the example. Look, when we put out the Iranians and the one Sudanese artist, it didn't explode. The gallery didn't explode. So yeah, we'll see.
So here you see somebody did revolution by himself.
for herself. So why are you so much for group curating?
I think it's important
You
to,
have to go to compromises all the time.
yeah, it makes you compromise. But it also, you know, when I was teaching the class, they tell me that the exhibition didn't feel like one person talking down to them. That this exhibition didn't feel like one person telling them a story, but that it felt that they had many voices. And they didn't know because they only saw me as the teacher, so they thought I was the curator. And then I reminded them that I was not the curator, that there were other people with me. We were together as a group. And they noticed this. So I think it's important to stretch this idea of the collaboration further. People get so afraid, and you know, also I think what happens is that curators, obviously look at the amount of people who want to be curators, and which is a very badly paid job. So we're definitely not making money in this one. So there must be something else. Part of it's a combination. There's an illusion that is that you become an author. That there's an authority and authorship in creating. But I would say that more and more I'm leaning towards the idea that we become editors. That we are editors. That we are catching grammatical errors, that we're meaning two artworks that don't coexist well, or there's a historical error by putting them next to each other. That we are identifying word choices. This artwork sounds better than this artwork. That we are trying to get to the root of meaning, what the artist did the first time. Did the artist exhibit that object in a pedestal or on the floor? Let's make sure that this is correct, that we don't install art incorrectly. So there are, like, we take care of conditions more than we do authoring. When we write, we're authors, right? It's our own words and so on. But I think curating, I'm more inclined to think that it's an editorial board. And especially in a place where there's 7,000 people. So it's visited. So it's not, yeah, it's not a dinner table anymore for me. Like before, it was like I was cooking for you. Every time you came to Dia, you got my meal. But now, I am in more of a deli situation. Yeah, and so there are many dishes here that you can have, different soups, different, yeah.
So, two questions actually. One, would you say then that the community is a good answer for the corporate problem?
The community
A
where?
community of curators versus the corporate model of curatorship?
Yeah.
You were accused of, and you think it actually works? And the other question that I wanted to ask you is, you started out by saying that you needed a mentor. Why did you feel you needed a mentor?
At age 40.
At age 40? And have you been mentored?
Yeah, no, definitely. Okay, so the first, I think so. I think that, I mean, the corporate is a stereotype, right? The corporate is a stereotype of international architecture. Chris Van der Rohe, Philip Glass, you know, that's the corporate. The corporate is also a mentality. You know, America is a corporation. Its government is shown to be a corporation. So I think that there's attacks that this is part of the culture already. So it's very hard for me to change it, or for us to change it as a group. But I guess maybe the experience of creating as a group does bring a little bit of mess, a little messy. All the labels were written by different people. You know, my labels for Kara Walker, Iman Isa, they're a little bit messy when it's different tone than the labels that someone else wrote. The intro panel was revised 20 times because we were 6 people. So we all had to agree with every word, every sentence. Yeah, maybe something comes out of that kind of messiness and murkiness that makes it less corporate. I also think curatorial practice has become a false profession, where a curator takes, it's like it brings back all the bad things that you haven't dealt in analysis or with your parents, and so it creates like mini dictators and mini terrible sharp people.
False starthood.
Yeah, false starthood. Yeah, so I think being the center of attention, if you're not well balanced, can bring really nasty things out. So I guess when you're in a group, somehow they equalize you. So those impulses to become the diva gets kind of tempered.
Yeah.
So maybe that's why I'm gravitating more. Like I'm thinking, oh, I've seen so many institutions instrumentalized by curators for 20 years. All the books by them, all the shows by them. You start associating the institution with one person. And I think that's not going to be the future. I just think that that's the model, that's the Donald Trump. This is what we got, this guy.
Actually, Alfred H. Barr was, this is part of the criticism on here, that he used to write most of the books and most of the catalogs of the MoMA at the beginning.
Yeah.
Not just at the beginning, but this was a part of authorship.
Well,
it was,
but
it was related to that period, I mean to that time.
That generation.
In history, yeah, in that generation. And I agree with you that in our time, we have to hear these voices.
It's very hard for someone in the group to lie and to say that they created this show. Yeah. Because I'm going to come at them, Thomas is going to come at them. So you see, like, all of a sudden you have these check and balances where the other person has to calm down a little bit.
Yeah.
So that's the first thing. And then the second thing, the mentorship. So yeah, I was a DIA for nearly 6 years. And working like really autodidactic in a way. Improvising, trusting the artists a lot, and letting them do their thing, and benefiting from that. But what happened too was that after doing Carl Andre, that blue book over there floating, I realized that maybe Carl Andre was the thing that changed me, that there had to be other ways of doing exhibitions. That I did that exhibition without seeing an artwork. So I'm confessing something very important. I mean, definitely, I trusted Carl Andre that he was a genius and that he didn't make bad art, but that's a risk. Never again I will do a show without seeing the work in first hand. But I couldn't do that at DIA because it was a little budget. You know, I made that show with nothing. It's a miracle. But I needed to find a place where there was money. I'm very, very, very blunt here telling you this. Because I didn't ever want to do that again. Of doing a show based on reproductions, of doing a show based on what other people have said about the work, it didn't feel right to me. Even Carl, who I trusted tremendously, the fact that I got to meet those works when they arrived, to me I knew something was wrong. So to tell you very like analytical, like I'm opening like your very intimate confession in front of all these people, I thought I was a fraud at that moment. Even though the show, I swing it and it was beautiful if anybody saw it.
And you got great reviews.
Yeah, I got the reviews and we toured and Carl is happy, so great. But I thought, oh my God, I'm getting historical works that I really have never seen before. And that didn't feel right. So yeah, MoMA, I went when I met Anne Temkin, and Anne Temkin has a rule that she told me, you will get to see every work. So you're not going to do the work of art in your checklist if you haven't seen it.
And this is a lot of your travels,
And
right?
this is what I do.
Yeah.
And so right now I'm working on the job retrospective with her. And I have to see everything. I go to see everything. And it's so different to be a curator that sees the artwork. I mean, artworks are really complicated objects, and they look one way in photography, but very different in real life. So to develop really an eye, to develop knowledge, you have to see them. It's very hard because it costs money. That's very, very expensive. It's a very expensive proposition. But if you start small, like if you say, okay, fine, I will only see the things that are in Tel Aviv or something, then yeah, but go and see them. Yeah. So it's, yeah, that was my lesson at age 38. At that time, I was like, okay, this is not right. We have to find a way to do exhibitions that are really serious examinations of works of art. So then for that we need resources. So I went to the corporation, because the corporation does have the resources to do that. I mean, there's no limit. And that was really a relief. And yeah, I'm gonna try for as long as I need to. I think that also you go in phases as a curator. There are moments when you're very frugal, and you do crazy things like doing a show based on reproductions. But then at this moment I thought that's enough of this kind of driving drunk driving of curating. Yeah. Yes, sir.
I think to continue, the one good thing about having to actually see the real work is that it slows down the process.
Absolutely.
Also, it takes time. To do that. And in between you have time also to travel things, you sleep, you wake up at different phase. And I think in what you saw, I didn't count, but you did a lot of work, a number of shows. Within those years at the MoMA, I didn't count before, but just the years in the MoMA, there's a lot of production.
Yeah.
A lot of production. I mean, every one of those shows is a massive, project.
Yeah.
And it includes so much, including the catalog, the writing, the labels, working with other people, and you do a lot of those. I just want to ask about that. Perhaps that's another aspect of corporatization of art, is that it demands, a lot of products all the time, in the sense of exhibitions.
Yeah, yeah.
And perhaps that's part of the criticism, that the MoMA is not required, really. It just needs to do a lot of exhibitions all the time, and so that doesn't give you so much time to prepare. So someone comes from documental style, they show once every 5 years, or, those kind of European institutions where they actually really do take a lot of time to prepare, and then they see the MoMA and they see the fastness of production. Which is
but it takes a long time. It's not fast. The MoMA is not fast. Dia was fast. I produce a Dia 1 exhibition, 1 book a year, myself alone. But at MoMA, there are 44 curators.
No,
Yeah, but
also the process.
And
Also
it's
the
like
process.
3 years,
It's
5
3
years.
years.
3 years to 5 years.
But the MoMA is an institution. I don't know how many shows a year.
12 shows a year.
All the institutions, 12 shows a year?
Yeah, but the others, there's also like little things.
Including all the little things, so including, I don't know, drawing and architecture and design.
No, that's
No, 12 major exhibitions. 12 major exhibitions, but they take 3 years, 5 years, because I told you there are 44 curators, they're all working. So they are in different time schedules. Like I'm working on Judd, which will be in 2020, and I started in 2015. So 5 years I have
But in
for
the
Judd.
meantime, you do a lot of other shows.
Those little things, yeah. These are called little things.
But yeah, but I'm also here.
Yeah, but they're not, they don't come with a book. That's the real thing.
I was just wondering,
Yeah.
with the expansion going on right now, how it will also affect your department and also the amount of exhibitions will increase, and how do you feel about it?
I love the idea of the expansion so that we can have less people in the galleries, hopefully. What would be bad is if we expand and then we have the same problem, then that's a problem. I think it's going to affect, the other thing, we have a problem. One of the problems that we have there is that because there's such a good collection of European and American art, the argument is, well, how do you bring in Japanese post-war? How do you bring in, we also have a very good collection of Latin American art. Miraculously, by one collector, gave a big gift. But how do you bring the other voices? Let's say we have about 38 artists from Israel. How do you bring one of those artists into the collection, let's say at one point? Well, one of the arguments that has been there for a long time is that can that work be exhibited next to the masterpieces, next to Warhol's Marilyn, or next to whoever, you name it. But the argument we're saying, the young curator, the new guard of curators, is that yes, we can. There's no problem. We did it. We've done it. Other people have done it. There's no need to tell the story only with the phenomenal works. You can also have moments of pockets where there's something else is going on here. It has nothing to do with Warhol. Why does everything have to be centered on these key figures? This is very, very important. So we're trying to push that with the expansion because we will have more galleries to push this question. Now, how you push it has to come from a place of knowledge. So you have to learn the collections. So for example, now, when I'm in a meeting and someone says, well, we don't have global pop. We don't have great pop artists from Argentina or Japan, you know, like, and I said, no, we do. We just have the prints. Right? So I now have to learn what is in the prints department to be able to answer that question with intelligence.
You put the W.
Yes. So no, it's like, so you have to know it. And so that would be the way to answer it, to say, yes, we can open our pop gallery. It doesn't have to be New York 1963. It can be also Japan and whatever you want. But then it's not paid for the sculpture. And that is where we have to change a little bit that perspective. So I think it's going to be a great opportunity for them, for us, for them. You see, I still not identified completely. For us to have more galleries to play. And hopefully we will, so I'm involved in the rehang of the 6th floor, which is one gallery, one group of galleries, and another group of curators with me. And so we keep pushing that. Like, okay, let's not only focus on the masterpieces.
Rewriting history, changing the narrative, yeah.
It's a hard one to do, especially in the United States, because it's a young country. So it's complicated. And also, unlike, you know, Paris in the Centre Pompidou and in the Tate in London, they seem to have gone faster at this. They got the memo early on and they went for it. I also think that you have to remember the United States is an empire, but it's not a colonial empire. So
not yet.
Not yet. So the history of European colonialism in Africa, for example, or in India, in the case of England and the UK, is different from the United States history, recent history. So they have an opportunity at the Tate to be very easily, their way that departments, instead of mediums, they're organized by regions. Right. So you have someone who focuses on Latin America, someone who focuses in the Middle East, someone that focuses in Southeast Asia, and so on and so forth. This replicates the colonial empire of the British Empire, where in the United States, because of the lack of these kind of endeavors, we don't have that comfort zone. At MoMA, there's only one curator of Latin American art, and that was because someone gave money to create that endowment long time ago, and it exists, but we don't know what to do with it because it's an anomaly. It's not normal among the curators to have one person to focus in a region, a continent. Yeah, and in France, it's also different because the Centre Pompidou has Catherine David now in charge, and she is very fluent on cultures from all over the world. She's done many years of research. So they acquire in a different way than the Tate. They don't have regions. They're more like MoMA, like Medium. But somehow it's easier for them to bring in artists from Romania or whatever you name it, next to Thomas Hirschman.
But it's connected also to the Pompidou's history.
Yeah,
I mean, when
it's
it
younger.
was, it's younger,
Yeah.
and also when they established, they used to do those connections between different countries. They had the exhibitions in the 60s and end of the 60s, 70s.
It's a political decision.
Right. Yes.
It's a decision. It's something that you
But for example, in Brazil, this is not a problem. The Brazilians don't want to show Americans or Europeans or Africans.
But how do you compare, for example, to Puerto Rico, which could be considered like a colony of the
Yeah. No, we
But
don't
what
have
would happen there? That it's like Puerto Rico had like this rich identity, but on the other hand, it's a sort of colony.
Yeah, we don't have a department or.
No, like because you come from Puerto
Yeah.
Rico, no? Like,
Yes.
So like, what would happen in Puerto Rico, like compared to what was the reality of Puerto Rico?
The museums in Puerto Rico, it's a colonial mentality completely. What does that mean? So it means that the collection is Spanish. Because when you go to the one museum in Puerto Rico in the south, it's Spanish colonial paintings. And then because we were not liberated from Spain, we were given to the United States from Spain as a gift. It's a gift if you know about these trades. Then the next round of collection is like what is called Creole, right? Is the Puerto Ricans trying to make paintings that look Europeans. And then you had Puerto Ricans who went to New York and came back with conceptual art. You know, you have always a derivative situation. Not all the time, but most of the time. So Puerto Rico is not a good example. 3 million people. I would never compare New York with Puerto Rico in terms of culture, leading culture mechanism. But I think Brazil is a perfect example. Brazil and New York, Sao Paulo and New York can be compared. Yeah. And when you go to Sao Paulo de Pinacoteca, you don't have this anxiety of telling the world's history, right? Yeah. So how Lina Bobardi decided to contribute when they opened the modern museum in Sao Paulo is that Velázquez is going to be next to the other guy and the other guy and the other guy, and they're not going to be any, it's just going to go chronologically like this, on these beautiful easels made of glass. I don't know if you've ever seen that installation. But yeah, they're not concerned about Peru or Argentina. The Argentina a little bit more because of the neo-concretism. But yeah, that's not their preoccupation. But New York has this problem, the Museum of Modern Art has this problem on their shoulder of wanting to tell a story of modernity that I don't see that problem in other places as strong.
As strong.
Yeah.
We have to say thank you very much because they still have classes.